So after you've uploaded your run test to Training Peaks, which is the app that I use, and if you're working with me, you understand all this stuff already, but from that information, we're gonna be able to create your training zones. Let's review what your training zones are. There are 5. I use 5 training zones. So zone 1 is the equivalent of your warm-up pace. You wanna be able to run in zone 1 with your mouth closed, only using your nose to breathe. And what does that do? It actually enables you to build a really big aerobic engine and be efficient and run slow enough that you can actually go on for a very, very long time. So warm up and cool down and recovery intervals should all be in your zone 1. Zone 2. Zone 2 is the equivalent of a marathon pace. So something that you would be able to hold for 26 miles. It's still very, very aerobic, and ideally, you could keep your mouth closed and only nasal breathe during your zone 2 efforts. But for a marathon, you might end up needing to open your mouth to breathe just to get more oxygen to your working muscles, okay? You can use it for warm-up, cool-down, and recovery intervals as well. Zone 3. Zone 3 is the equivalent of a half marathon, which is 13.1, or half Ironman, which is 13.1 running off the bike. So it's also considered your tempo zone, and it's one of those things that you need to train, right? So most people spend most of the time training in their zone 3, and that's a big mistake. We definitely want to encourage you to train your zone 1. All your zones need to be trained, but zone 1 and your zone 5, which we're going to get to, just so you are working 2 ends of the spectrum and not only just training in the middle. Zone 4. Zone 4 is considered your lactate threshold zone, and that's actually one of the most trainable places you have, right? The zone that is the equivalent of a 10K effort, so what you could run for 45 minutes to an hour, maybe an hour 15, depending on how long, your fitness. But zone 4 is the equivalent of your lactate threshold zone, and we do spend a lot of time training here to really improve your performance. And lastly, I use zone 5, and zone 5 is equivalent to your VO2 max and what you could run a 5K in, whether that's off the bike or fresh. Obviously, for all running alone races, you will always go faster than if you're running off the bike. So we do have to train that effort, and you usually go a little bit slower when you're running off the bike. But zone 5 is a great place. It's your VO2 max that you definitely want to train. The only thing is a lot of times people get injured training in their zone 5 because they don't have the structure to handle the increased speed. So it's really, really important to make sure you're doing your core strength training. I have lots of videos about run-specific training and the importance of it. So make sure you're hitting your run strength to be able to handle the zone 5 efforts. But those are your 5 training zones.